We read in this coming week's parasha, the last parasha, closing portion of the Torah, Vezos Haberachah, where Moshe blesses Klal Yisrael before he passes away. And the portion begins, Vezos Haberachah. This is the ultimate bracha. This is the ultimate blessing which Klal Yisrael receives. And why is this the ultimate? So the Torah tells us, Asher Berach Moshe. This is the ultimate bracha which Moshe had blessed the Klal Yisrael. And who's Moshe? Ish Elokim. He's the man of Elokim. Es Bnei Yisrael L'fnei Moshe. The Jewish people before he passed away. So over here the Ramban Nachmanides in his commentary explains why is he referred to as Ish Elokim. Elokim is the attribute of justice. Why is he referred to as Ish Hashem? Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. The appellation should be Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, what does it indicate? That God is an infinite being. Hoya Hova V'yeh. So why is he referred to as Ish Elokim? He's Ish. He's dedicated to Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, to God. This is Moshe Rabbeinu. So Ramban makes an interesting point here. He says, why is he referred to as Ish Elokim? Lahagid, to inform us ki birchosim mekuyemis. Moshe's blessing is a blessing which will be fulfilled because he's Ish Elokim. Ki Ish Elokim he hayo, because he's an Ish Elokim, because he's a man of Elokim. Utfilas yisham retzono. What is the will of God? The supplication of the person who's straight, who yisharim. It's interesting. I once mentioned the name of the Nitziv, Anatol Tziyuda Berlin, in his introduction to Chumash, his commentary, Hamek Dover. So he begins with the question. The Gemara cites a verse in Yeshua and Joshua where the book of Bereshis is referred to as Sefer HaYosher. It is the book of the Yosher. So we ask, why is it referred to as Sefer HaYosher? So the Gemara explains in Avodah Zorah that because it's the book of the Yeshorim. It's the book of the straight ones. Who are the straight ones? Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, the holy patriarchs, are Avos HaKadoshim, they were Yeshorim. So because the primary topic and discussion in the book of Bereshis is Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, therefore the Sefer is referred to as Sefer HaYoshor. It's the Sefer of the Yeshorim. So the Netziv goes to explain, we find a number of appellations for very spiritual people. You find Tzaddik, you find Chosid, somebody who's devoutly righteous, and then you find Yeshorim. What's the difference? Tzaddik, Chosid, and Yeshorim. We have in the text of the Amidah on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Tzaddikim, Yeshorim, we speak Tzaddikim, Chasidim, Yeshorim, Yismochu, Yogilu, Yoronu, each one, when they will rejoice, and each one rejoices at a different level, different expressions of joy. But what's the difference? The straight one. So he goes to explain that a person who's a Yosher, he's able to rise above his personal conflicts of interest. Tzaddik means a person does everything correct. Correct? Exactly correctly. Chosid means a person who does something beyond the call of obligation. He goes out of his way to do more for Hashem, to do more for God. That's Chosid. Mischasid im kono, as the Gemara tells us. He does chesed with his maker. Yosher, he's able, despite his conflict of interest, he has a level of objectivity, he could rise above his conflict of interest. Where do we find such a thing? What was the thrust of Avraham Avinu's life? To espouse monotheism, to refute paganism. Which community was personified evil? Which was pagan, plus every level of representation of evil. Sodom and Amorah. Yet, when Hashem informs Avram he's going to destroy Sodom, he supplicates God that he should not destroy them. Maybe the 50 tzaddikim, 50 righteous, maybe the 45, and it keeps going till Hashem says, there are no righteous. Therefore, they cannot be saved. The Gemara quotes a pasuk, Ibud Risham Rina, when you hear that the evil are being destroyed, you sing the praises of God. Avram, when he heard these people are the antithesis of God's presence, they're trying to undo everything Avram wanted to accomplish. He should have sang God's praises, but rather he takes God to task, enters into a very strong dialogue with him to save them. Based on his own seemingly conflict of interest, he should have said, Baruch Hashem, when he hears they're going to be destroyed, but yet he's able to rise above. But what's his concern? His concern is Chil Hashem. He says, you know what people are going to say? As you destroy these people today, although they don't deserve to be destroyed, you destroyed the generation of the great flood. At a whim, you just destroy them, deserving or undeserving. So that was Avram Avinu's concern, that it won't reflect well in the eyes of the world on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But what is the gut reaction of a person who has a level of conflict? It's terrific. You know, I condone it. I praise it. I sing your praises for it. Avram is Yosher. He's able to rise above his personal conflicts of interest. What's Yitzhak? Yitzhak is also Yosher. Why is he Yosher? We find Yitzhak, he was driven out of the community of the Philistines. Avimelech says, please, leave our community. You're creating problems for us. And later, Avimelech goes with his entourage, and he wants to make a covenant with Yitzhak. Yitzhak agrees. Yitzhak could have said, I'm not interested in you. Despite his seemingly a gripe, a claim that he has against Avimelech, that he was abused, and he was disgraced for no reason, and it was the failing of the Philistine king Avimelech, he agreed. So you see, he's able to rise above his own personal feelings. What if on Yaakov is a Yosher, that he's able to rise? We know the Torah, when Yaakov entered into a discussion with his father-in-law, Lavan, who was evil, the ultimate deceiver. Totally no conscience for anything within the context of integrity. He was Lavan Harami. He cheated him. 1,000 times he cheated him. He redid the agreement endless times over. But yet, Avram was faithful, dedicated to the contract, as much as he was cheated. Never shared a word of it with his wives. Whoever heard of it? How could you be so abused and so persecuted and so victimized over so many years? He spent 14 years working for the two wives, which he was deceived, and then 6 years for wealth. And again, even there he was deceived. How do you keep quiet? How do you remain silent? How do you tolerate this? The answer is, because Yosher. Unless it has value to share it and to do differently, you stay the course. That was Yaakov. The Vezos Haberachah, you show him. But what does that mean? What is the whole concept of conflict? What does that say about a person? A physical person, a person who lives as a human being, as a physical person, there's the I and there's the you. A Yosher, he does what's right. Despite the conflict, despite the pain, despite the difficulty, there's no me. There's only what you want, what Hashem wants. It's a certain degree of negation. To overcome your own personal obligation, your personal conflict, you have to be negated, so therefore the conflict is irrelevant. Therefore, Ish Elokim, he says, Ki Ish Elokim hoyo utfilas isham ritzono, because he was Ish Elokim, because he was the man of Elokim. Therefore, the supplications of the Yesharim, that's the will of God. What do these people pray for? They only pray for God's glory. They don't pray for themselves. It's interesting. We find the Gemara tells us that each one of the Vezos Hakadoshim, they actually enacted one of the prayer services of the day. Avram Tikein Shachris, Yitzchak Tikein Mincha, Yaakov Tikein Arvis. Avram legislated the morning service, Yitzchak the afternoon service, and Yaakov the evening service. Where do we see that Yitzchak enacted, what is it based upon? That he enacted the afternoon service, we'll call Mincha. So the Gemara quotes a pasuk, a verse. It says, "Vayetze Yitzchak losuach basodeh." He went to losuach, literally means to stroll. He went to speak in the field. What was he speaking? Sicha. Sicha in Hebrew is speech. He went to speak to God. He went to pray. So one of the commentators explains. He says, "What did he pray for? Did he pray for himself?" He says, "It's a known fact that tzaddikim, that special people, they never pray for themselves. They only pray for the welfare of the generation. Only for others, not for themselves." Yitzchak, there's no question. The Ritva, who's a commentator on the Talmud, this is what he says. There's no question. He did not pray for himself. He prayed for the welfare of the generation. As we know, that's what tzaddikim pray for. They don't pray for themselves. So what is that? What is that praying for another, not for yourself? It's a negation. That's Yishorim. That is the characteristic of being a Yosher. It's not me, it's the other person. But a person is naturally self-centered. You're self-centered. Famous word, they tell a story about the Chafetz Chaim, that when a baby is born, the baby is always born with his little hand clenched. Its little fist is closed. When a person, God forbid, dies, the hand is wide open. Why? So they say, because when a child comes into existence, even the child the intelligence hasn't yet begun to develop naturally, instinctively, a child wants to take in the whole world. The whole world is mine. It's I, it's me. That's the symbolism of the clenched little fist. When he leaves the world, the person's hand is wide open. You take nothing from this world. But it was known when the Chafetz Chaim passed away at the age of 99, he left the world. When he passed away, his hand was clenched, was closed. Chafetz Chaim, when he left this world, he left with everything. Why? Because the Chafetz Chaim, he didn't live for himself. He lived for Hashem. When you live for God, when you leave the world, you take it all with you. Therefore, his fist, his hand was closed, was not wide open. He took it all. But that's Tfiloso shel Yishorim Yiritzono. The tefillah of the Yishorim, that's the will of God. This is Ish Elokim. But he makes a point. But yet, whenever we find the word Eved used, the servant, it's Eved Hashem. It's not Eved Elokim. Now, why is it Eved Hashem and not Eved Elokim? He says, the Ramban, Avoyom Moshe Eved Hashem, V'atam Yodu L'kol Maskil. He says, anybody who has any level of understanding understands when we speak about Eved, servant, it's Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and it's not Elokim. But what does they understand? He says, anybody who understands, you understand why it's Eved Hashem. It's not Eved Elokim. So how do we understand it? So the way I understand it, what is the concept of Eved? A slave to a master. A slave to a master, the slave is the chattel of the master. It's the asset of the master. It's no different than the animal of the master. And if the slave understands what his value is, he only exists for the master. His whole identity is the master. He has no independent identity. Who am I? We find by Eliezer, Eved Avram, what does he say? As much as he was accomplished, he oversaw the whole financial empire of Avram Avinu, and many on spiritual realm also. Eved Avram Anochi. Who am I? Eved Avram. I am the slave of Avram. It's not I'm the administrator, I'm not the CEO, I'm not the CFO. I am Eved Avram. I'm the lowly slave of Avram. That's who I am. I have no identity. Eved Hashem. What does Yud Kei Vav Kei represent? God is infinite. If you recognize that God is infinite, what are you? What is you? What are you? A person stronger than you, more brilliant than you. But if God is unlimited, and what are you? Your limitation is not to be understood. How limited you are. So what are you? That's Eved Hashem. The reason why the person is negated to such a degree to be the Eved that he only lives for the master is because he recognizes that it's Yud Kei Vav Kei, that God is infinite. If God is infinite, what am I? It's interesting. The Rambam writes that there's a mitzvah of Avas Hashem. There's a mitzvah to love God. There's a mitzvah to observe Shabbos, to eat matzah, take the lulav, sit in the sukkah. As much as you don't want, you can force yourself to do an action. There's a mitzvah to give tzedakah, charity. As much as you don't want to give charity, give charity. But what about, there's a mitzvah to love God. How do you love God? Love is an emotion. Either you do or you don't. I mean, how could there be an obligation to love? So evidently, there is a way that a person could activate the emotional feeling of love. How? So the Rambam writes that if a person looks at existence, you look at creation, and you realize the unlimited genius in creation, that as much as we understand, the more we don't understand. It's unlimited. We're overwhelmed with the aura and with the unlimited power of God, even within a limited context, which is creation. So what happens to the person? When you come to the realization, you're taken aback, you're overwhelmed, you're negated, and the moment you're negated, it evokes an unlimited love, a love that comes out of the person that he loves God. Because the way Hashem created a person, when you recognize that someone is great and special, you immediately gravitate. You're attracted to that person. You want to be associated with that being, with that person. So when you realize who God is, when do you realize that? You have to be negated. You're taken about and you realize that you're less than a speck on the spectrum of existence. When you realize that, this evokes the greatest level of Avos Hashem, of love for God. That's Eved Yud Kei Vav Kei. What is the Eved? An Eved is the chattel. I'm nothing. I exist for the master. But that's Yud Kei Vav Kei. Therefore, it's the appellation is not Elokim, it's Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's Yodua L'Kol Maskil. Over here, the Rechaim HaKodesh writes, and he asks many questions, and many people ask these obvious questions. The parsha could have begun, Vezos Haberachah. This is the blessing. What's Vezos Haberachah? And this is the vav seems to be superfluous. What's the and? So he explains, why is Moshe passing away now? It says, when is he blessing them? Lifnei Moso, before his passing. Now, why is Moshe dying? Why is Moshe not going to Eretz Yisrael? Because the Jews, when the water ceased after the passing of Miriam, the Jews spoke disrespectfully. And Moshe became angry, and he says, Shimonu Amorim, listen, you rebellious people. And rather than speaking to the rock, he struck the rock. God says, because you struck the rock, you will not enter into the land and you will die. You will not cross the Jordan. But who incited, who evoked that anger of Moshe, which ultimately caused him to pass away now? Klal Yisrael. As much as you're willing to forgive. So I don't hate you, I don't despise you, I have no negative feeling. But is there a positive feeling? To give a bracha to a person, you have to feel very positive about that person. And the more positive you feel, the more intense the bracha is. So you'd say, it's the day of his death. Now why, he thinks, why am I dying at this moment? Why am I leaving this existence and I can't continue? Because you people, you undermined my life. You put me in a position that I became angry and I struck the rock. What kind of bracha could such a person give? That's what the Torah says. Despite that, Vezos Haberachah, this is the ultimate blessing. And when did Moshe? When did he bless them? Lifnei Moso. Even though it was Lifnei Moso, it didn't interfere with the dimension of the bracha. It was the greatest bracha Klaus ever received. Even more than the bracha of Yaakov, giving to his children. That's how great the bracha. But why was he able to do that? Because he was Ish Elokim. That because he was Ish Elokim, that's the reason why he was able to give the bracha, despite that they're the cause of his death. Because he's Ish Elokim. We find that after the Chet Egel, God says, I will destroy them. I will destroy Klal Yisrael. And Moshe, you will be the future of the new Jewish people. So what does Moshe say to Hashem? If you do that, obliterate me from your book. Obliterate me. What is the obliteration of the book? So the Seforno explains, we just had Rosh Hashanah. What is a tzaddik? A tzaddik, what is the classification of a tzaddik? The majority of his accomplishments are positive. What is a Rosha? The majority is negative. And the Rambam writes in Laws of Tshuva, the valuation is not a quantitative valuation, it's a qualitative valuation. And who's the only one who can make this evaluation? Only the Kel Deos, only God himself. The Chet Egel was the most serious failing of Klal Yisrael. Literally. 40 days after they hear the Aseret Adibros, God speaks to them face to face. How do you fail? I mean, the words of Chazal, of the Midrash, it's like a kala, God forbid, committing adultery under the chuppah. You just at the chuppah. How do you do idolatry? How do you fall to such a level? So the level of the failing was enough to cause that they should be destroyed. Moshe says, you destroy them, obliterate me from your book. So what does it mean, obliterate the book? So it's hard to explain. Take all my merits, shift it into their account. So by putting my merits on their account, so now that'll shift the balance. Now that they'll be reclassified as tzaddik. But once I shift all my accomplishments into their account, so why is Moshe mentioned in Torah? Because Moshe is Moshe. What is Moshe? He's the spiritual person. But if he shifts it out of his account, he has nothing now. Therefore, now why did Moshe want to say, I'm willing to give it all up for them? Why? Because without a Klal Yisrael, there's no God's glory. Klal Yisrael is Kavod Shamayim. We are God's only glory in this existence. We are the only people who can meet that objective. Nobody else can meet that objective. So if that's the case, what do I live for? Moshe says, I don't live for myself. I only live for you. So if I only live for your glory, and who's your glory? Klal Yisrael. Obliterate me from your book. Shift all my accomplishments into their account. So therefore, as much as Moshe is dying because they evoked something in him which caused him anger to strike the rock, but you understand, Klal Yisrael having the greatest level of bracha, if they are blessed to a greater degree, they're able to achieve a greater degree of Kiddush Hashem. The more their greater spiritual capacity causes them to rise to other level of heights. So because of Moshe's Avos Hashem, his negation of Ish Elokim, that he lived only for God, therefore, even though they're the cause, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Klal Yisrael, the more advanced they are, the greater servants they could be. The greater Kiddush Hashem, the end result is a greater end result. Therefore, even though it was Lifnei Moso, it was before he was passing, literally moments, it didn't detract as much as an iota. You know, it's interesting. The Ramak, Ramoshe Kordoviro, he writes in his work Talmud Dvorah, when he speaks about the 13 attributes of Rachmim, one of the attributes he speaks about is that if a person goes and betrays a friend, betrayal, or has a very serious fallout with a friend, even though the friend is willing to forgive you, the relationship is not the same. The initial positive feeling and the love, it's not the same. With Hashem, it's just the contrary. After a Jew fails, when he does tshuva, not only does Hashem not have a claim against the person, his love for the person is even to a greater degree. To a greater degree. That you came back, that you did tshuva, you loved even to a greater degree. And that's why the Moksha Bali Tshuva Omdim, I feel tzaddikim more about where Bal Tshuva stands, he's even greater than the person who's always a tzaddik. Because you came back, despite that you left, and it's so difficult to come back, and you're willing to endure it to come back, it's not only the love is to the equivalent of the original, it's even more than that. But that's Hashem. That's God. It's interesting. Moshe Rabbeinu, his love for Klal Yisrael, as much as he was hurt, and his life is coming to an end. This also maybe is a little bit of a mahuafato. This goes in just as he loves despite our failings and past, and it's something humanly impossible to come to. You can never come to the original love that you have in feeling. If you were betrayed, and despite that, you say, you can't be human. You're only a human being. Moshe Rabbeinu Vezos Haberachah. Moshe Rabbeinu was able to achieve it. Because since he was only lived for God's glory, and Klal Yisrael is God's glory, therefore he was able. Vezos Haberachah, this was the ultimate bracha. This is the greatest. Therefore you have the Vav adding to the Vezos. Not only this is the bracha. It's even more than the. This is the ultimate. That's what the Vav indicates in Vezos. Find over here something interesting. It says, Vayomar Hashem, Vayomar. He said, Hashem is Sinai Bo. Hashem came from Sinai. V'zorach miSeir Lomo. And he radiated from Seir, from Mount Seir. Hofia mi'ar Poron. He appeared from Mount Poron. So he radiated from the house Seir, which is Edom, the Edomites. And he appeared from the Mount Poron, which is Ishmael. V'osem me'rivos kodesh mimino eshdas lomo. And he came with some of the myriads of angels to give the law and fire. So Rashi says something interesting. V'zorch misir lomo sheposach livnei Esav shekabel haTorah. He first went to Esav, to the Edomites, and he asked them to receive the Torah. V'lo rotzu. They said, we're not interested. Hofia lehem mihar poron. Holach shom posach livnei Yishmael shekabluah. He went and offered the Torah to the Ishmaelites, the Arabs. They weren't interested. We're not interested in receiving it. V'lo rotzu. V'osel Yisrael. But he came to Klal Yisrael, and they accepted it. So this is the praise. This is the praise of Klal Yisrael. Everybody turned you down. Klal Yisrael agreed. What exactly is this relationship? Rashi says earlier, "B'sinai bo yotzed krosam kivshebo lisyatzeif, b'tach kechosna yotzi lakum nekala." It was like a groom going out to greet a bride. So you know what Hashem says? I offered myself to be the groom to Edom. He says, I'm not interested in the marriage. He goes to Ishmael. We're not interested in marriage. Comes to us. We say we agree. Everybody turned me down, but you didn't. So lahavdil, chas v'sholom. You could ask a question. You have a person, a woman. She says, you know, I wanted to marry so-and-so, he turned me down. I want to marry so-and-so, he turned me down. And you know something? This man, he agreed to marry me. So what does that say? So what? I mean, he married you, so you're happy he married you. What is it? But who's the winner and who's the loser here? What exactly is Hashem? What is Moshe saying? They all turned you down, but Klal Yisrael as chosin v'kala. What is chosin v'kala? What is bride and groom? What's the difference between the concept of bride and groom, ish v'isha, regarding a non-Jew and a Jew? What is a marriage for a Jew? What is a marriage for a non-Jew? The Medrash tells us you have New Year's by the nations of the world, and you have New Year's, you have Rosh Hashanah by us. So the Medrash says, what is New Year's? What's Rosh Hashanah by the Goyim, by the nations of the world? They drink, they feast, they brawl, they fight, and they kill one another. That's New Year's. What's New Year's by a Jew? Lahavdil, Elef Havdolos. We stand in awe, the most solemn moment, and we accept God's kingship. We're talking about not night and day. We're talking about worlds apart. It's a whole different dimension of understanding what existence is about. Are you an intellectual animal and you live for yourself? Or do you live for what? For God, and you're really a spiritual being within a physical context. What are you? What is chosin v'kala? Asher bora sosim simcha chosin v'kala. It's a meeting, it's a fusing of neshamos. We're finding our Aveda, what we lost. When a man marries a woman, it's a fusing of the souls. A person reaches a level of shleimus, of perfection. Over there, compatibility. I found a companionship, somebody who I have an interest. She has an interest. It's not just a physical relationship. It's not we share common ideals. By the Jew, it's a spiritual bonding. It's creating a different reality. We speak about there's a concept which is discussed in the Talmud, Ishto Kagufo, that a wife and a husband, it's one entity. It's not two separate entities. Two people living together, and there's an agreement between the two of them. It's one entity. That's what it is. What is that? Hashem created the world with an objective. What was the objective? Bereshis bara Elokim Yisrael V'Soretz. I created the world for one reason, for the sake of Torah and the sake of Klal Yisrael, because they're the only people who have relevance to the Torah. But through that, what is the ultimate objective? The ultimate objective, the Navi says, L'chvodi barosif. I created the world for my glory. That's the only value existent. God says, I wouldn't have created this existence. Only for my glory, and if you address that glory, then you've succeeded. And you're deserving of the ultimate. That's what Hashem says. I came to Esav, they said, we're not interested. We live our lives for ourselves, we're not interested in your glory. Goes to Yishmael, we're not interested in your glory. Comes to Klal Yisrael, they said, we negate ourselves for your glory. We're willing to sacrifice, give everything up for your glory. This is the ultimate level of praiseworthiness. Just the opposite, chas v'sholem. It's not everybody turned you down. But why did they turn you down? Because the understanding of what they are and what is the purpose, they don't understand that. Therefore, there's the ultimate praise for Klal Yisrael. This gechosen hayotzit korskalo, b'sinai bo. So why is this the ultimate bracha? Firstly, Moshe Rabbeinu was giving the bracha. And he's Ish Elokim. And who is he giving the bracha to? It says he's giving the bracha to Bnei Yisrael. Who are the Bnei Yisrael? Shem Kli Muchan L'Kabel HaBrachos. They are the vessel who has the greatest capacity to receive the blessing. If you have a vessel which is 1 ounce, and you want to put 100 million gallons into that 1 ounce vessel. Doesn't have the capacity to contain it. The bracha that Moshe was giving, the bracha which is totally relevant to the spirituality, which is unlimited. Klal Yisrael have an unlimited capacity for bracha. Klal Yisrael is a kli machzik bracha. We are a vessel which has, and a kli machzik bracha is unlimited. Unlimited. Because it's spiritual. Anything with the spiritual dimension is not finite. It's unlimited. Mashalo hoyarato seul mad shloshos shchina b'klosim el bnei Yisrael ki niskapzu korach hakadusha shem b'misru shishim ribo. It says he gave the bracha to what? Es bnei Yisrael. Say bnei Yisrael. Beirach Moshe Ish Elokim Bnei Yisrael. What's S? The S seems to be superfluous. So he explains. There's always what we call, there's the obvious and there's the non-obvious. Cited in Sforim that the greatest angel cannot fathom the spiritual makeup of the Jewish soul. That's how exalted this Jewish soul is. The spirituality of the Jewish soul is so exalted, even the greatest angel cannot fathom what that is. So what's obvious? We're spiritual people. We're people. There are other people. We're more spiritual. But there's much which is unnoticed and not understandable. Even the angel doesn't understand. To who did he give this bracha to? to Bnei Yisrael, but it's Es Bnei Yisrael. The S is always, there's an adjunct. There's an aspect of Bnei Yisrael which is not understandable, which is concealed, totally concealed. Only God knows what our innate value is. Even the greatest angel doesn't know that. Lifnei Moso. Ki agodl gam shegodl irach Moshe. As great as Moshe was, when he's about to depart from his physicality, the tzarad al taimim, tosif rucho, he has another dimension of spirit. Therefore, because it's before he's passing away, the bracha, he's more spiritual. There's a interesting Sefarno. The Torah tells us when Yitzchak wanted to give the bracha to Esav, he says to Esav, Yom hine zokanti. He says to Esav, I've become aged. Lo yodati yom osi. I don't know the day that I'm going to die. Therefore, I want to give you a blessing. Go trap, catch something for me, to prepare delicacies for me, to give you the blessing. So the Sefarno says, Lo yodati yom osi. I don't know the day of my death. Ki omnam habrocha tochol yosef biyos has mevorech somuch lemisa. A bracha is more effective when it takes place right before the person dies. Why? Ki Yaakov Moshe, as he's fine. Yaakov, when did he bless his children? Right before he died. He passed away. Moshe, lifnei Moso. Why? He says slightly different than the Orach Chaim HaKodesh. Ki oza nefesh yoseh nivdeles min hachomer. Before a person dies, the soul, the nefesh, is already extricating from the physicality. The concept of bracha is something spiritual. The more spiritual a person is, the more profound is the blessing. As much as a person is a tzaddik, is special, then the sham is still intertwined with the physicality of the person. So therefore, who is the bracha coming from? From a composite of physical, spiritual. That somehow minimizes the dimension and the profoundness of the bracha. Lifnei Mosa, since the soul already and the nefesh is extricating itself, it's not as intermingled with the physicality. So it's coming from a more spiritual source. Therefore, the bracha is a much more profound bracha. This is the understanding. Therefore, he says Lifnei Mosi. So it could be that's the Orach Chaim. Why is a person's ruach increased before he dies? For that reason. Why does he have a more profound spirit? Because now that he's extricated, now things manifest themselves differently. When you're alive, everything is contained and limited to your physical being. So now he says, and why did he ask him to go hunt something to bring him delicacies? Why did he want to bring delicacies? He wanted him to make delicacies, prepare delicacies, so he should be engaged in the mitzvah of honoring his father. Do a mitzvah. And because of this, he'll have a worthiness that the bracha should take effect. Why? He says, although Yitzchak didn't know the evil of Esav, was unaware of this. But he felt he did not have the capacity, that he was the vessel to receive the blessing that he was giving. He had to have a worthiness that the blessing should take effect. Yitzchak's bracha was profound. But it's like I said, if you have a small vessel which has the capacity of an ounce, could you put 100 million gallons in that little ounce vessel? Doesn't have the capacity. So how do you broaden it? How do you expand that capacity? You have to give a worthiness. What gives the person that worthiness? Doing a mitzvah. The mitzvah kibbutz. Yaakov. He wasn't qualified to receive the bracha. But he says, however, when he gave the bracha to Yaakov later, Yaakov, who was Nishtam Yoshiv Aholim, he was the person of the tent, committed, pure his life to Torah. Lo shol metamim. He didn't ask for delicacies. Lo bikesh dover. He asked nothing of Yaakov. Ubercho tekov. And he gave him immediate bracha. Bomro v'kel shaka yivorech oscho. Yaakov, being the spiritual person, he had the worthiness. So he had the capacity. Esau, he knew, did not have the capacity. So now, over here, Rashi says, V'yom Hashem yisinei bo. Hashem had come from Sinai. Posach tchilu b'shvochu shel mokom. Moshe, when he starts the bracha, first he starts speaking about the praises of God. V'akach posach b'tzorchem shel Yisrael. Then he spoke about the needs of Klal Yisrael. U'b'shevach sheposach bo. But even the praiseworthiness, which he began, Yishbo haskor schus l'Yisrael. He's mentioning simultaneously why Klal Yisrael are meritorious. Chozeh derech ritzu klomer. Rashi doesn't say the people, they're worthy that you should give them the bracha. Doesn't say that. They're worthy shetochaleim bracha. They have the worthiness that they should have the capacity to receive the bracha, not for you to give. That you shetochaleim bracha. This is exactly what we're saying. What the Siforno said. Esav, Yaakov's Yitzchak bracha was profound. He knew Esav did not have the capacity to receive it. He had to have a worthiness. What gave him that worthiness? Kibbutz. By fulfilling the mitzvah of Kibbutz, this gave him that capacity. Moshe is saying, Klal Yisrael has the worthiness. Therefore, not you should give the bracha, you may give, but they don't have the capacity to receive it. Kedai hem shetochaleim bracha. They have the capacity, they should be able to receive the bracha. See, over here he says something interesting. He says another interpretation of Ish Elokim. Moshe was the Ish Elokim. Yisbarach Kosov al derech Omram. V'zel Shono, he quotes a Gemara. Im Yova HaKadosh Baruch Hu leishiv b'din, im Avram Yitzchak v'Yakov. If Hashem would sit in justice, in judgment, of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they couldn't survive the exactness of God's judgment. That tzaddikim can be effective through their actions and through their essence in this world. Even the greatest tzaddik, why does he survive in this world? Only because they attribute a rachmim. If not rachmim, even Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov wouldn't have survived. Chemaim David, and we say this on Yom Kippur, Al tovu b'mishpari modi, Al tovu b'mishparis avdecho. Don't bring your servant into judgment. Ki lo yitztak lefonecho kochoi, because no living being could be vindicated. Nobody's perfect enough for your judgment. Pirush called tzaddik shi chai. Who's chai? Tzaddikim b'misazim kruim chayim. The chai is only the tzaddik. Rishon b'chayim kruim mesim. The Rasha, when he's alive, he's not considered chai. So when David says, Ki lo yitztak lefonecho kol chai, the living cannot be vindicated. That means the greatest tzaddik cannot withstand Hashem's judgment. V'garodia kosov ki tzaddik zeh, this atzein polatov afilu be'erech b'chines hadin aromos belokim. Moshe was the only human being ever that he's able to withstand God's judgment. Because he's Ish Elokim. If God would take Moshe to task, Yuchal Hifli Lasos Hatova Yosher. Despite everything, he could be fully effective. Even within the context of full din, of judgment. This is referred to Ish Elokim. Now he says something interesting. So you do us low. In every aspect, Moshe was perfect. Was he born that way? He had all the most exceptional positive characteristics and qualities. In every sense of the word. Didn't come just naturally. It was the Yerusha Me'elokov. It was out of the dimension of fear that he had for God. Lo Shor Tivo Messiah said it had nothing with nature. You know, some people, as the Rambam says in Hilchos Deos, people have different, they're born with different temperaments. A person has a temper, he's naturally giving. A person is born with a temperament, he's naturally withholding, miserly. You have to overcome certain tendencies you have. So you'd say maybe Moshe, the reason why he became Moshe Rabbeinu, because he was born with certain tendencies. The Torah say no. His nature did not assist him to achieve what he achieved. It was rooted, every positive quality that he achieved had nothing to do because that was his tendency. It was purely attributed because it was Ish Elokim. Rashiv Zechariah Nevrocha once told me that Reb Chaim Brisker, Zechat Tzaddik Levrocha, Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, he was exceptional tzaddik. He said his level of stringencies on a personal level for himself, not for others, for himself, was beyond our understanding how strict he was with himself. What we call chumrah. He says, why? Because Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, Reb Chaim Brisker, he literally saw Gehenna before his eyes. He lived his life where he saw the consequence of doing the wrong thing before his eyes. That's the level of Yerushalayim that he had. Therefore, he wouldn't allow himself as much as an iota of justification or anything unless it was absolutely correct. That was his level of Yerushalayim. That's what my Rashiva shared with me. So I said to my Rashiva, Zechat Tzaddik Levrocha, I said, Reb Chaim, the way he's able to elucidate a Rambam, there's nobody comparable to it. You start studying the words of Rambam, Maimonides, the words, and he asks us questions during his analysis. One word doesn't flow to the next. By the time he finishes, he elucidates such a level you don't understand what the original difficulty was. This, as a Reb Chaim, was able to bring it to a level of clarity. Reb Chaim, as he studied the Rambam and elucidated the Reb Chaim studied the portion of Gehenna, of what is Schar V'Onesh. Therefore, he had it out. He grasped it at a level which he fully had the understanding. He internalized it to his essence of his being. That's why Moshe was Ish Elokim. No, nobody's compared to Moshe Rabbeinu to any degree. Different dimension. Imheinu k'malochim, onu k'chamorim, Moshe Rabbeinu. We're donkeys. We're all donkeys compared to Moshe Rabbeinu. And not even the donkey of Pinchas, Chamosha Pinchas Ben Yori, even less than that. That's the reality. And once asked, we find that Moshe's mother, Yocheved, and his sister, Miriam, were the midwives in Egypt. They were the head midwives. They were Miyaldus Ivrios. The Torah, when it refers to Yocheved, Yocheved was referred to as Shifra. Shifra was Yocheved. Pua was Miriam. So why were they called Shifra and Pua? The Torah doesn't refer to them as Yocheved and Miriam. Because what was Yocheved's primary responsibility? To beautify the children. After they were born, to clean them, to wash them, to beautify them. And Miriam, her responsibility was to calm the child. That's Pua. Child has just experienced the trauma of being born into existence. Her responsibility was to teach the midwives how to calm the children after they're born, to overcome the trauma of birth. So Shifra is Yocheved, Pua is Miriam. Okay? Firstly, why is it so important for us to know what their responsibilities were? Well, why? Does it make a difference in the story? He said to the midwives, I want you to kill the male children when you see them on the birth stool. If it's a male, kill the child. If it's a female, let the female be born. So within the context of the story, of the narrative, does it really make a difference what their responsibilities were? Whether it was to cleanse the child, to beautify the child, to calm the child. It's totally irrelevant. But yet the Torah feels it's important. You have to know what Yocheved's responsibility was and what Miriam's responsibility is. Why? Then it says, they did not listen to the dictate of Pharaoh because they feared God. That's the way it concludes. And because of that, they merited batim. God made for them houses. Bate, Kuna, Leviah, and Malchus. Okay? They were exceptional. Now, a woman who's dedicated to be a dedicated midwife, we're talking about not a small number of children. Her life is to beautify children that were born. And the other one's responsibility is to what? To cleanse the child, or to calm them over the trauma. This is their life. He said, I want you to kill a child. It's like saying to a mother, I want you to kill your child. Could a mother kill her child? Not possible. Because of the connection and the love a mother has for a child, a mother can't kill a child. It's so contrary to the natural tendency and nature of a mother. You're saying to Shifra and Puah, we want you to kill the Jewish children. We say we can't. It's how naturally we can't. But how? Why not? Because our whole lives are dedicated to bringing children into existence, to clean them, to beautify them, to calm them. Now you want us to destroy that? So but why didn't they kill them? Because they feared God. That's what the Torah is telling us. That despite their responsibilities, that's not why they didn't kill them. They didn't kill them because they Yorei Elokim. Because they feared Vatirena Hamiyaldus Elokim. Because they feared God. It had nothing to do with their tendencies. It's purely, so the reason why the Torah has to share with us the aspect of their vocation is to bring out this point that is unrelated to their vocation. It's unrelated to their tendencies. Vatirena Hamiyaldus Elokim. That's why they didn't kill him. Ish Elokim. Every aspect of Moshe's life had no relevance to his tendencies or his temperament, nothing. Every midah tova that he had, every positive characteristic was because he was Ish Elokim. So a person who is that pure and naturally genuine, just to conclude, the Gemara tells us in Sanhedrin, Gedolim Tzadik Yosim Alchei Asharis. A tzaddik is greater than the greatest angel. How's it possible? The answer is, an angel, whatever dimension he may be, is because God created him to be that dimension. Why is a tzaddik a tzaddik? Because he made endless choices to be the tzaddik. And that's exactly what we're speaking about here.